Good morning. We are here today to celebrate a wonderful man. This is Martin Luther King Jr.'s day where we honor him and what he does. And so we're going to be talking about 6 ways that you can honor his legacy because it was a huge legacy. And so if you are watching now with us, please drop a note and let us know what you're doing today, whether you got the day off. Some people got the day off. I don't have the day off because I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, we run our own businesses, so no days off for us unless we plan it that way. And I didn't plan it that way this year. Some people are doing a parade downtown.
Yeah.
Or I think it starts a little later. I think it's probably going to start while we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that, but if you're doing that, let us know you're doing that. Let us know how you're honoring Martin Luther King Day. And I'm Judy Best with iRealty Arkansas. I work out of the Sherwood office at 120 Brockington, across the street from Coles and North. Well, it's actually right on the edge of Sherwood, so it's in Sherwood. And we're here every Monday talking about ways that we can have our best year ever in 2020. That's the topic of our show. We are not selling anything on the show. We're just talking about achieving our dreams, and that's what MLK was all about. My guest today is Laura Iverson, and she's a friend of mine who also runs her own business, and she's a consultant. So Laura, welcome to my show.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you. Tell the people that are watching a little bit about you, and then we'll get into what we're talking about today.
Okay. Well, I'm a business consultant. I work with nonprofit and for-profit businesses as it relates to the educational component, like professional development, executive leadership coaching, as well as marketing.
So she is always ready to help other businesses, whether they're profit or not-for-profit, grow to the next level. She's all about leveling up. So, and that's what we're both doing this year too, is we are leveling up. So if you're watching on replay, drop the hashtag replay in the comments and let us know what you did. If you're watching this after MLK Day, let us know what you did on MLK Day. I am a child I was born in the 50s, late 50s, very late 50s. I'm okay. I've earned my age. So I'm a child of the 60s, and I experienced all of these days as this history as it happened. I remember the day that John F. Kennedy was killed.
Wow.
And I remember the day that Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. Even as a small child, those were very dramatic days in my life.
Yeah.
And so it's part of my life. And so this is very personal to me. How has those deaths impacted your life, Laura, even though you weren't a child when those happened?
Well, even though I wasn't a child when those events happened, it was taught to me very young. I tell people I came out of the womb singing Negro spirituals. My family made sure that I not only knew about my culture and heritage, but the history of our country at large.
Right.
What does that mean as relates to the United States, Arkansas? Martin Luther King had a great influence in Central Arkansas and also in the Delta. So you can see different traces where he, made a visitation on his tour before he landed in Memphis. He stopped at in Pine Bluff.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So there's history of him stopping at different places on the way to Memphis.
Oh, wow.
And each time that he stopped, what that reflected. So he had close relationships here. My dad even was in fellowship with him. They were part of the same fellowship when he was living in Memphis at the time. And when he lived in Atlanta, my dad did, he found out that his first wife used to babysit Martin Luther King Jr.'s children.
Wow. So you have a real direct connection.
Yes.
That's crazy. That is so cool. Well, we want to get into our tips for, hi, Michelle, I see you there. Thanks for joining us. Our tips for honoring that legacy, ways that we can move this forward. And one of the things that Laura and I discussed last week when we were talking about doing this together was that we would be coming from two very different perspectives because I was raised in Springfield, Missouri. So I wasn't even here in Arkansas when all of this happened. So I don't even have the same connection. And it's a different experience that Caucasian people, white people have, connecting to the struggle that Martin Luther King was part of his dream to overcome.
Yeah.
And so, and I know that you've experienced some of the same struggles, even in your lifetime, that we would have hoped would have been gone by now.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to join, we talked about linking arms today.
Yeah.
So we could honor the man, but we could also find a way to move forward in the struggle so that it isn't a struggle forever. Let me pop this open and we'll get started. Okay, 6 ways to live out Martin Luther King's dream. First one, our first tip is to advocate peace.
Yes.
This is a hard one.
Yeah.
We're starting out right away with a hard one because I know there's a feeling that you're not heard when you peacefully demonstrate.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
So in my cultural experience and personal experience is that there's one major factor that as here in the United States we don't realize is that we are the villain in someone else's narrative.
Yes.
And so sometimes it's easier to discuss peace as it relates to another country or another set of oppressed people and not so much with our people, because it's like, of course, we did nothing wrong.
Right.
Like,
yes, right.
Slavery wasn't really a thing.
I didn't do that.
Like, how do we do it? It's like, no, like there's history. And it's like, no, yeah. So we still battle with that part of the narrative. And I think that that's what kind of feeds into the fact of not hearing and seeing marginalized people as it relates to peaceful protest, as it relates to wanting to reconcile, because you have to have that desire on both sides of the conversation.
Right. Well, and I think when you bring a tip up like this, it says advocate peace, the first thing that has to happen on the other side of the fence, my side, and I hope there's not a fence between us, but I'm using that language, but in the other experience, is when I see oppression and cruelty in anything, any way, in anyone's life, just because it's not impacting me is not a reason for me not to speak up. And so when I say advocate peace, there won't need a violent action if the people that aren't oppressed and aren't experiencing cruelty speak up on the behalf of those who are.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it sounds easy, like we're saying it, like
Well, when my daughter was in Washington D.C. when the riots in Baltimore happened over Rodney, what's his last name? I've forgotten. The guy that was shot by the police officer.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I know you're talking about. Yes,
okay,
I know you're talking
y'all
about.
know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And my daughter is she's an activist. I would say she's an activist. She feels other people's pain so deep in herself.
Yeah.
And so I called and said, "Hey, Rachel, please tell me you aren't in Baltimore today." Because the police were taking such strong actions against the people who were protesting this action. And she says, "I'm in Baltimore."
Of course.
Yeah. And so it's scary for a mom that has a daughter that's an activist, but I'm also proud of her that she feels so deeply the pain of others and takes action on their part with them.
Yeah.
She doesn't send them out alone. She goes with.
And I think that that's like really, that's a great segue into the second point of like advocating unity, is that when you really study um, like civil rights activism or social justice activism as it relates to the white community as like that segment, and then activism as a whole, how they advocate for unity is that they go to the problem. So that's the difference. Like anytime that I speak to white brethren about allyship, because we're so accustomed to like when things are a fad and it's cool and and I don't want to sound like a racist and this and that, I'm going to use certain jargon to make myself sound or be less racist.
Yes. Yes.
And so
that happens.
And so when I give them examples like John Brown, when I give them examples of ministers and clergy members during MLK's time that lost their lives, like if they had not have died, we would not have had the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
Like right. Seriously, like you can't put the fact that you put a fist sign on Facebook in the same category as someone that they had to be disowned by their family.
Yeah.
Because they did not share the same ideology and belief. So when you see people who are willing to advocate for unity, I think the thing that separates and segregates them the most is they go to the problem and they're not going to leave until there's unity.
That's good. That is a good point. I like that. One of the ways that I try to advocate unity is by making sure that my surroundings don't just look like me. Mm-hmm. If I'm sitting at a table and everyone at the table looks just like me, I'm at the wrong table.
Yeah.
If I'm in the same thing in our workforce and our community events and those things, is to have unity, everyone has to have a seat at the table.
Yeah. That inclusion aspect of things.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I don't know that may be too simplistic. Tell me if it is.
To a lot of people, that's the hardest thing you could ever ask them to do, actually.
Really?
Yes. And me coming from, at the time that I was growing up, a predominantly like white town, like I was always used to being a minority. I was always used to not having a seat, or even the people that were teaching me looking like me, or I was working for looking like me, the person sitting next to me at my job not looking like me. So I was very far removed, but had a certain level of consciousness that it's not that people of color didn't exist in the town.
Right.
Is that if that's not a priority, then that is a hard thing. Because if I bring it to you, like people don't necessarily see how unity affects them.
Right.
Like they don't see it as like,
they don't even see how disunity
affects them. So they don't see the benefit of like, oh, if you have these different people represented here, if you have an inclusive and diverse corporation, how that benefits everybody, even a inclusive curriculum, because that's another big education reform topic right now, is that our history is not inclusive. There have been a lot of problematic things coming out of some really large publishers in the past 5 or 10 years about how they communicate slavery in grade school books.
Oh,
that like basically,
see, I'm not even aware of that.
Yeah, it's like basically like we decided to just like, we're not doing nothing today. Like we're going to go to this other country and we're just going to like work as like, indentured servants basically. and figure our way, how to get up the ladder. And it's like, that really didn't happen.
There was no getting up the ladder.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. So it's like, so they kind of removed that whole part of it. So yeah, I feel like because we see the benefit, unity for us is mandatory. It's like, that's a part of our identity and existence. But for someone that they don't see it and they feel that it doesn't affect them either way, they're not going to really fight for it.
Wow. Well, let's jump to our next one, because it's another tough one in some ways, but not in others.
Yeah.
Advocate love, not hate. I'm going to go to a totally different angle on this one for just a minute.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to why you're smiling.
Okay.
My brother came out as a gay man a few years ago.
Okay.
And he says that still to this day, he has to be careful walking down the street
Yeah.
with his partner. He doesn't know how people are going to react or respond to him. And
Yeah.
I was totally unaware of this, of that people hated that much that they did that. And but the one thing I know about Christianity, and Martin Luther King Jr. was a God-fearing man
Mm-hmm.
and preached the gospel, was I'm called to love. I'm not called to
Absolutely, yeah.
judge or decide that somebody else is not worthy.
Yeah.
And so that shocked me. So what's been your experience in this area?
I think you pretty much summed it up, is that people consider them the judge and jury of love. And so when you're operating within that context, love really doesn't exist for you as it relates to perpetuating that to someone else, because love was never meant for you to, like, it wasn't a tool for us to use to measure other people
Right.
or other things. Love is a state of existence. We were born and birthed from that place of existence. So if you think that I determine what love is, then you already don't understand what love is about.
Right. Well, and it's important, even within, I know that a lot of the women influencers group and
Mhm.
the Little Rock Power Women group watch my lives. And so I'm
Oh, hey.
so happy that you do. But that said, make sure that you're including people from other cultures.
Yeah.
And from other experiences in your groups that you're forming,
Yes.
because you'll hear a voice that's different from your own, and it's only as we are expressing love to that person
Yeah.
that their voice, they know that their voice was heard.
Yeah. And I think that's a really great point. And it's not even just about like the people that you attract,
Yes.
also in your leadership. Like I heard something from where I go to church on Sunday that I didn't even think that it was a foreign idea, but then I kind of, as I sat with the information, realized it was a foreign idea. So they decided that they were going to have like a choir, like a church choir, and that they were going to be a part of, like, integrated into the Sunday service every
Okay.
Sunday. And they said that their primary reason for doing that is because everyone needs to see themselves.
Yeah.
When they show up, that needs to be the first thing that they see, is that not just the person that shook my hand at the door looked like me, but that every other area also represents me. So I think that, don't just look at who you're recruiting, but who is in the boardroom making decisions.
Yes.
Who represents your leadership? Who represents?
Who's making the rules?
Yeah.
Who's making the rules?
Yeah,
Who's
that's a
giving
good
the
point.
promotion?
Absolutely. So I think that that's a good idea too, to advocate love and to definitely make sure you're being cognizant of those things.
Yeah. But for sure, don't hate. It's okay to hate some things, but not people.
No.
Don't hate. Well, let's jump on. And this is a huge one for Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Advocating service. So,
because you do that. That's what you do with your life.
I do. Like to sum it up, I help make people's business dreams come true.
Yeah.
So that is my servitude to my community. And that's how it all started, is that this is how an economy grows, is through interpersonal relationships and advocacy. So if we all give a little bit, then that makes the load light. So there's never any need or want. And it can grow larger than just your neighborhood. It can go to your city, your state, your region or whatever. So it's necessary part of growth. But I think that when you live in a capitalist society that's not built on collectivism or socialist philosophy, being selfless as a part of your just innate characteristics are very hard.
Yeah.
So finding ways to serve where it's not about what you get in return isn't always like the go-to.
Well, and service takes so many different forms.
Yes.
For so many different people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people only serve when they go to church.
Yeah.
Okay. And if that's the time you're going to serve, give it your all, because that's important. I think to have a balanced life, you have to have an area of service in your life.
That's very
true.
And
for some mothers, that's their home. They
Yeah.
are serving in their homes. But one of the things about our business, I do real estate and we flip houses. We have a real estate investment business where we flip houses, and we had to learn how to do that. We learned from scratch.
Mhm.
And then I'm also a realtor because that complements that business that we're doing there. Well, when we started out in the real estate investment business, there weren't very many people that were willing to take our hands and help us
Wow.
unless we were willing to pay them money.
Mhm.
And we did, we paid money and we learned. But that said, we are so aware of that now that we are established and we have a successful business, that when somebody says, hey, I want to pick your brain, I want to learn, I want to have coffee with you and learn what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes, we would love to have coffee with you. We
Yeah,
want to
that's
help you
awesome.
learn that. And we help anyone that asks for help. But we also do that in business. My husband was a SCORE counselor.
Wow.
Until just recently, we got too busy where he couldn't do it anymore, but he was a SCORE counselor. That was one of the ways that he gave. And he literally does not get anything back from SCORE counseling. He's just helping people that have a dream find a path to make the dream a reality.
That's amazing.
And so if you're a new business starting out, you should definitely reach out to SCORE because they will help you. But you do a similar thing that SCORE does, and that's for people that are already started.
Yes.
But now they're ready to get it all established and set up and push forward.
Yes.
So there's areas of service in our businesses, but I also serve on the auxiliary of the Arkansas Enterprise for Disabled Development for the let me start over. Arkansas Enterprise for the Developmentally Disabled.
Wow.
And it's an organization that has a preschool for children who are developmentally delayed, but they also have an adult program where they're helping train the kids have a skill, or the young adults really is what they are, and where they go out and they get hired. They get them into
That's
jobs.
amazing.
And I'm so excited about what this organization is doing. I just am a part of that auxiliary. And if anybody who's watching would like to visit our auxiliary, we meet once a month for lunch. I would love to have you come and be my guest, because that'll be another perfect thing for some people.
Yeah.
But on this day, there's a way you can serve to have more unity and peace in your communities by reaching out to people who aren't just like you. Laura is young.
I like to think.
And I am older. And we're from different generations. We're from different cultures. And our skin color is different. Underneath our skin color, our blood runs red.
Absolutely.
And so we are just the same. There's not a difference. There is a difference in the way we were raised. And so we react to things differently.
Yeah.
But I can still have great value in your presence and you and mine, I hope.
Absolutely.
Because
yes.
So reach out to somebody that's different from you. That's all I'm asking. It's just reach out to someone that's different as an act of service and see how you can help them move forward. And then you may be surprised to find out that they can help you move forward too.
Yes.
It's really exciting. Okay, we've got a couple more to get to. Advocate bold leadership. I am a big leader. I'm a mouthy, loud leader. What about you?
Some would say I'm a loud leader, but I don't think I am.
Okay.
I think my style is more like relational type influencer. So like I start from the bottom up. Like I may not necessarily be the person with the megaphone, but I am the person that will sit at the table with you and like, let's figure this out. Like, what's the issue that we can, address? What resources do we have? What talents and skills can you bring to the table? So my leadership, I feel like it's still bold because clearly people listen.
Yeah.
But it may not be loud. It may not be.
And loud is not always good. Trust me.
But I think that that's definitely necessary. And I think that was MLK was a great example of that. But I also want to just kind of insert here before we get to the next point, is that what we also have to keep in mind, and why some people don't want to be bold leaders, is that it also comes with a negative connotation.
Yes.
MLK in his life was one of the America's top most hated men. He was not a fan favorite.
Well, it's why he ended up dead.
That's why he was assassinated.
People weren't aiming for him because they didn't want their world to change the way he wanted the world to change. It's so sad.
Yeah. But even in him accepting his fatality and that being a part of his narrative, the result of his bold leadership was like catapulted other things to happen that he may not have ever even imagined. So it wasn't that his mission failed. Is that a part of this story and the effect of his bold leadership was accepting his mortality and accepting that he may not see the promised land, and that's in his last sermon.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things for advocating bold leadership, I believe God plants a purpose and a dream in our hearts. And you know what your purpose and your dream is that has been there. Even at my age, it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm aware of it. So be bold about that purpose and that giftedness that God has placed it in you to make it happen. There's all kinds of politics about all kinds of things that we talk about. But Martin Luther King Jr. was an example of a bold leader. Vicki Parker is in Cabot, and she has the pregnancy center there where she's trying to help young women not abort and to keep their children. And that is a purpose that God has put in her heart, and she's bold about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no matter how you feel about that one way or the other, if there's something that's in your heart that you be bold about it. Don't be scaredy about it.
Yeah.
Be bold. This is a year of boldness for you.
Yes, definitely a year of boldness. One of the biggest things that I've just kind of entrusted into my space is reevaluating how I can help greater. Not thinking so small, not being so like, well, maybe, maybe
waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, maybe I should wait for something to happen. So I've been very assertive, even to the point of me co-launching a work retreat experience in March, Synergy Execution Summit. So that's a big thing for me, like a huge step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh. So I'm basically like taking what I typically do and then putting it in event form. And then like people are interested and people want to show up and people want to attend. So taking all these different things in has been just
so cool.
Yeah, like overwhelming. But
I'm
it's
excited about where you're going with that. Let's hit our last point. So far, let's just recap quickly. We said advocate peace, advocate unity, advocate love, not hate, advocate service. And our last point is advocate change.
Yes.
Can you talk about change in our lives?
Change definitely starts with you. We can complain about the way things are. We can complain about how we wish things were different, but it all happens with, I want to say it was Gandhi that talked about, like, if you want to change the world, change yourself. Like, start with yourself.
Start with the man in the mirror.
Yes. So like, consider all the things that we've discussed. What things are, reflective in your day-to-day lifestyle? What things could you improve upon as far as your advocacy? What ways can you really show up in 2020 in a more intentional and loving and inclusive and unifying and peaceful fashion? I think, just making that conscious effort and then setting action steps toward it, you're already making a change in the world.
So we want to ask you right now, the people that are watching now and the people that are watching on replay, what change do you need to make? What change needs to happen in your life? This year, you've already expressed, Laura, that you are going for it.
Yeah, I'm going for it. Yeah.
And you made a big event for people to attend and people are wanting to do it. Okay, if you hadn't done that, you'd still be on the same path doing the same thing. Okay, it's the same thing with people that have an 8 to 5 job, which is different from what we do. But if you go to work and do the same things every day, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and you expect your dreams to come true, you might be surprised, or you might not be surprised that it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it requires a change. Change is part, when you embrace change, your dreams come true.
Yeah.
If MLK had just been a preacher at a church, he would not have impacted our society the way our society was impacted.
Yeah.
White people embrace MLK Jr. quotes.
Yeah. They love them.
And because they don't scare us. Okay. The Black Panthers scared us. Okay. When we had a conversation that when I get angry at work, I'm being a bitch. When you get angry at work, you're that angry, scary Black woman.
Yeah, like I could lose my job.
Right, yeah. And so it's two different things. But when a man gets angry, he's just being powerful.
Yeah, he's asserting his authority.
Yeah. So there's a thing there. But that said, when we advocate change, we have to embrace some changes in our philosophy.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So
I like that.
We have to find ways to not only shift what's in our mind, but also what's in our hearts. Give me your hand. If we are scared to be with a Black person or a person from the Middle East right now, they're facing, then it impacts our growth as a person, right?
Yes.
And so I just want other people to understand that we have to link arms.
Yes.
Be willing to touch and be touched, loved, and not judge others unfairly. So that's part of change, is changing our hearts and changing our minds.
Yeah.
And then when our mindset changes and our heart changes, our actions in the world changes. We need to realize that everyone's reality is not the other person's reality.
Yeah.
So, well, these were our 6 ways that you could honor MLK Jr. and his dream. So if you have a dream, let us know you have a dream. We would love to know that you were here. Last thing we wanted to talk about, just for a minute, we do want to talk about your retreat.
Yes.
So tell us more about your retreat. Who is the perfect person to come to your retreat and how they can find that information? And of course, if you want to connect with Laura or with her retreat, drop a comment, retreat info in the comments below, and one or the both of us will get that. But go ahead and talk about it.
So the Synergy Execution Summit is taking place March 12th through the 15th. And the perfect attendant is someone who feels like they are stagnant because they're a small business owner or they're a solopreneur entrepreneur that has a very lean administrative staff. And as you know, you've been there, you are doing direct services and indirect services.
Right.
And a huge part of your job as a manager is forecasting and strategizing. But how can you be in that mindset when there are day-to-day tasks that still have to get done? So we're trying to alleviate some of those pressures and some of that thinking and some of those resources that you're like, I don't have time to get that together for myself. We've taken care of all that. Basically, all you need to do is show up with your plan or your idea, and we're going to help you get things done by the end of the weekend.
So you'll go away with an action plan and connected to some of the resources you need.
Yeah, and not to mention, it is at a beautiful conference center, Ozark Conference Center in Sogahatchee, Arkansas.
Where's Sogahatchee?
The best way I can describe it is when you get off the Morrilton exit, you can go left to go to Pinnacle Mountain.
Okay.
or you can go right to go to Sogahatchee.
Okay, that's why I've never gone that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go past Overcup.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so the your fees include your stay, meals, all the recreation, and they have like tons of stuff. They have lake, paddle boats, canoes. So while things are getting done by other people, you actually get to go and relax too.
There you go. Laura also needs to meet people that provide services to small businesses.
Yes, like photographers, if you are a graphic designer, if you're a public speaker, if you do virtual assistant work, like general admin, any of those things would be beneficial to someone who just needs to get certain things done and feel not feel guilty about stepping away for a moment because they know their business is still running.
And if you don't have time to go to a retreat, then just connect with Laura and she will help you make a plan right in your business so that you can move forward and have an exciting plan. Because right now we want everyone to reach their dreams in 2020. We want you to have your best year ever.
Yes.
So we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you guys for joining us on this MLK Day. Let us know what you did and what was fun. Be sure to put in a hashtag replay if you watch it on replay. And we'll be back next Monday with another Facebook Live at 11:30 on Mondays on this page. Next week, my guest is a florist, Liz Ekret, and she's going to be talking about the meanings of flowers and the meanings of colors of flowers as you plan your flowers for the year. Yes. You need to take some of those things into consideration. So if you're interested in flowers, we're going to be talking flowers next week.
Yes, very interested.
It's going to be fun. Okay, so we're out of here for now, and you guys have a great week. If you need anyone to help you buy or sell a house, please remember me. But other than that, I just want to help you make your dreams come true. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.